Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, checking in with a weekly garden tour. I've only been home about an hour from a great trip to Massachusetts, but I've got to say, I'm really grateful that I live in North Carolina Zone 7, where it's warm, all the plants are growing. It was still like legitimately winter there, and we had a really wonderful trip. We definitely need to go back during the growing season because there just wasn't a lot happening yet in gardens, as there shouldn't be because it is only the end of March. But you know, compared to here, it's a stark difference, and it's good to be reminded of that. But it was really exciting to pull in and see how much everything grew in the few days that we've been gone. So let me turn this camera around and show you, because there is a lot to see, including fabulous fragrant lilacs. So we'll just start right here, and this is Declaration. I looked it up, and this is a hybrid from the National Arboretum that has done really well for me. It's not foolproof, and you see there's dieback on it. You can see there's a big branch back there that I need to cut off. But it's still alive. It's still producing fragrant flowers. It's been in the ground 11 years. And next to it is Lilac Sunday. This is basically bloomed out. This one didn't set very many flowers. I'm really impressed with Declaration having this many blooms, considering we really didn't have that many chill hours this year. So really happy sight to see. Of course, next to it, the Don Egolf Cercis chinensis is just about finished. And you actually can see some of the frost damage that we've experienced. I think primarily it was last Monday. I think we got to 27 degrees. Everybody to see poor Cubby. He's still hanging on. He's not doing great, but he's not in pain. And I'm gonna try and get him into a vet this week to see if there's anything that can be done to make his life as good as possible. Hi, Chubs. He's not really chubby anymore. He's gotten very skinny. So I wanted to go around this way because I wanted to show you the Cercis chinensis alba is also basically finished. And you can see leaves are coming out. Now, not only have all of the trees started to leaf out, but you can see like this Solomon seal is almost getting ready to start blooming. This is one of my favorites to use for cut flower arrangements because it lasts so long. Oh, poor Cubby has his little tongue sticking out. And over into here, under the live oak, I have some weeding that needs to be done because I see that doggone Velcro weed that is just the bane of my existence. And it's small amounts because I've already done a good weeding in here. But honestly, if you don't get all of the root, it just grows right back. And I've got some more in here. But I wanted to show you how pretty all of this is looking. I don't have very many traditional azaleas, but they are blooming right now and they're quite nice. But I love how this ajuga looks. And then you can see behind it, this is the Carex cherokeensis in flower. So it's got a really, you know, cool kind of architectural bloom. Of course, there's vetch. There just is vetch everywhere. I'm going to get this pulled. Maybe I'll do it tonight. This is the time of year where you really notice the weeds and it's basically too late. You can see all this chickweed is going to flower naturally. And I couldn't believe when we pulled in how much everything has grown. I mean, you can see that the viburnums are in full bloom. The rye is in full swing, and a lot more of the bachelor buttons and the cottage border have started to bloom. And it is really sweet how Reggie's always checking in on Cubby. He's a good little brother. So first of all, let's talk about the wave bed that I thought we had planted oats and rye, but all I see is the rye, which is fine. That is a-okay with me. I think rye is a really beautiful plant, And I just anticipated that it was going to be a different mix than it is, but it's fine. I don't know what happened if we just didn't sow any of the oat seed. I'm just not exactly sure what happened here. But the school group that did this is going to come back in about a month, and I'm really excited for them to see what they did here. And actually at this stage, honestly, it'll probably be ready to be harvested. So I may have the school group go ahead and do an early summer planting of something in here. I was kind of thinking of cosmos. I have a lot of seed of that. Well, and as you can see, the kitties are super happy that we're home. They, of course, are very well tended while we're away, but they like it when they have full reign of the house. And you can see, as we get closer, a lot of bachelor buttons have started to open, and some actually are more purple. In years past, I've had really good color diversity in this bed, so that's what I'm always hoping for. Now, I don't see any of the buckwheat or crimson clover that I sowed about a week ago. I don't see any of that germinating here yet, but I'll keep you posted on that. Oh, good. Here is a pink bachelor button. I have a lot of blue, but then I also really like this soft lavender. And, you know, if you buy seeds from me at my in-person events, all of my seeds are open pollinated. And you can see the bees are doing their job. They're moving pollen from plant to plant. And that's why I can't guarantee a specific color, because I'm not in control of this. Now, when you buy seeds from like a seed company, they probably have segregated plots, so they can kind of control what pollen gets onto the flowers and actually distinguish color. But in my situation, this is all open pollinated, so it's always a rainbow. I don't often talk about roses because they're not really my favorite, but I do love this one. This is actually a rose that was a commemorative one for 4 Bourbon's roses, but I can't find it online anywhere to like post a link for you to buy it. But it really has been a great plant. We've had it, gosh, at least 5 years. And for the most part, it's pretty disease free. And I don't do anything to roses. Like, I don't spray them with anything. I do very little pruning. So you can see lots of flower buds to come, but I just picked some for inside arrangements. And they're not super fragrant, but they do have a rose smell. They're not gonna fill your house with scent, but you know, it does smell like a rose at least. So let's start here. And this is Viburnum plicatum popcorn. And it's one of my all-time favorites. It's not a small plant, obviously. You could prune it, I have not. You know, the point of the shrub border when I planted it in 2011 was, you know, to have a break in between the neighbors. And this was a border of species Calicarpa and species Viburnum. And that's why I have a lot. So the Calicarpa haven't really leafed out yet. And you see I've done some pretty hard pruning on them this year. So those are still kind of sticks. And then this right here is Viburnum bichuensy. And it's not a very common one, but I think it's a really terrific plant. It gets great fall color, and it's just about to bloom now. And then, of course, on the back side over there is Viburnum macrocephalum, and that has been showing off for quite some time. Do you see what I see? I see a whole lot of buckwheat, y'all. So this is the border that I planted like 2 weeks ago and direct seeded with buckwheat. And as you can tell, all of it is germinating. It's filling in all the open space. It's exactly what it's supposed to be doing as a direct seeded cover crop. Really, really pleased to see this. Somebody's been digging, which is annoying. Cat or other animal. And all of the other small plants that we put in are looking good. You can see there's some muley grasses, and over here, really tiny cauliflowers but they're starting to grow. That's good news. And then, of course, the Pycnanthemum muticum. I'm so happy to see this. And, of course, yesterday's video was all about containers, so I'm not going to talk too much about them, but really pleased to see that everything is green and growing. And over here, you can see everything in the native shrub borders is definitely starting to come out and come to life. You can see some Fothergilla are in bloom here. Oh, and they smell so good, like baby powder. Native azaleas are leafing out. And this week, it's my mission to start to figure out some labeling, permanent labeling in here, so that when people visit, if I'm not around, you'll still know what things are. I'm not great as a permanent labeler, but I'm gonna try. I'm really happy that when I bought bulbs from Brent and Becky's, they did a really great job in selling me varieties that were gonna bloom all throughout the spring. So, you know, I had heavy bloom a few weeks ago with those bright yellow ones whose name I don't remember. But then you see this patch is just starting to bloom, and these ones were just starting to bloom when we left, and they're really at peak right now. So it's so exciting. This is such an exciting time of year, and especially with a brand new garden. Now you can see I have got a ton of cilantro in here. That's all that, that all is cilantro. And we were talking about this when we were in Massachusetts, and I was explaining cilantro has a taproot and it doesn't like to be transplanted. So you're much better off direct seeding it, and you'll get a lot more of a harvest than buying it pre-sprouted at a garden center, when as soon as you pull it out of that pot, it's likely going to die. So that is the trick to cilantro. Just toss the seeds down and let it be. Now, of course, I'm going to harvest some of this, but a lot of this I just want to go to flower because I want it to be here for pollinators. And it'll simultaneously be blooming with all of the poppies and the other cottage garden plants. Now, I've got to get the cutbacks done in this bed ASAP because everything is growing and coming out of dormancy, and it's time. It's been time, and I've just been delaying, and I just need to go ahead and do it. So that will be a video coming up this week. And so far, no blooms in this border, which is good, because I don't want them yet. But everything is growing really rapidly. So I think these poppies and things that we sowed in early to mid-November, I think these were done on November 12th. You can see they're growing rapidly. It's well, I say this every week. It's earlier than ever. It's just how it is. So far, I don't see any actual color or open flowers on larkspur, but that also is probably by the end of the week. I'll have some that are in bloom. And then this is, of course, where I planted those onion starts a few days ago. And I'm amazed to see already castor beans, seedlings germinating all throughout here. This year, I'm going to try and do a better job of not allowing so many to grow. So remind me of that in a month, everybody. Hold me to my word. And this border, holding on, I mean, everything is growing a lot, but again, nothing is in bloom yet. And that's the most important thing. I do have some more weeding to do, naturally. It is a never-ending battle. This is Reginald's first spring. You know, we got him the last day of June. So it'll be really exciting to watch him as the gardens continue to get taller. And, you know, he really will have like a full-on jungle to explore. Of course, speaking of jungles, oh my goodness. I have not gotten this weeded, and it is really, really quite out of control. Well, I'm showing you this because I like to keep it real, and that's the bottom line. Now I can't get over how, again, how tall some of these poppies are. These are self-sown, and you can see they've got actual stalks at this stage. A big contrast between here and Boston is that their early witch hazels were just starting and ours are finished. They are leafing out, as is the Coralopsis. You know, it is definitely green here. You can see the native woodland swamp is greening up. These are primarily sweet gums with some poplar mixed in. I mean, the Japanese maples are fully leafed out. It would be really bad news if we did get cold, like, and had a low 20s spell, so hopefully that won't happen. Now, someone had mentioned in my onion video about the Egyptian walking onions, and that is what these are. And if you're not familiar, these are a really great plant, and they spread by these structures that look like flowers. They are flowers, but they basically form new plantlets, and so they just sort of walk. They don't form as large of a bulb as probably what you're used to cooking with. However, they can totally be utilized in your kitchen. It's just slightly more tedious because you have to peel more, and you know, you need to use more to get the same amount of volume as like a bulbing onion. Now I wanted to show you what happens when you don't harvest your garlic last year and then you forget to pull it out. And you can see the garlic is perennial. It'll just re-sprout. It's just that these individuals aren't going to create great bulbs because they're too close together, because this was a bulb originally. And so this is what happens when you don't harvest your garlic. It'll come back and it'll grow nice and dense, and there's nothing, like if you don't like eating garlic and you want to grow it to deter animals, nothing really wrong with allowing it to be perennial. But I wanted to show you, this is a few clumps here that I missed and then forgot to come through and transplant. Well, you can see that those beets that Aiden and I sowed a few weeks ago are growing fast. And really everything over here is just looking lush and springy. You can see that the Mount Osso willow got some cold damage from last week. But overall, it's pretty remarkable how most plants haven't really suffered despite the cold. And of course, the hardy citrus is starting to bloom, and it smells great. It's not the best plant to bring in just because it's got such huge thorns that are totally vicious, but nice to see. And it looks like the Josephine seed crop, some got damaged, but certainly not all. So I'm quite positive that I will have a new round of seedlings to dig. And to be fair, and I'm going to try and do this week, I have a lot of seedlings to dig up, and I'd like to have those available for sale at the Spring Open Garden. Again, these are open pollinated. They haven't flowered. I don't know what color they're going to be, but these are nice size plants. And I'm going to probably put these in 1 gallon pots. So they would be ready to put in the ground realistically next fall, like in October or November. Okay, y'all, the poppy count, like, honestly, I think it's just a matter of days, to be perfectly frank. These have stretched so much. Let's check to see, is there a visible flower bud? Yep, there we have it. I don't think these will bloom by Saturday, which is April 1st, but I bet they will be blooming very shortly after. And then same goes over here. Obviously, I've missed some of my asparagus in my absence. It's grown really rapidly. And these, you know, have grown at least several inches. And yep, there's a flower bud. So very soon, possibly by the next weekly garden tour, there will be some breadseed poppies in flower. Reginald's really enjoying being on the garden tour today, in case you can't tell. And the bees are all over the powder blue blueberries. Really happy to see that none of these flowers got damaged by the cold. And I wanted to show you how pretty all these pots look, even though the tulips are done, which is so amazing because, of course, the tulips were just starting to come out of the ground in Massachusetts. And here they're finished. But the pots still look amazing, and you can see how robust that barley is. And that's really why barley is my favorite. It has the greatest presence. I also wanted to give you an update on the Lima beans that I sowed. I think this pot was in September. The ones out front I sowed in August. And they've made it through the winter time, which is a miracle. And I just think the flowers are really beautiful. And I really love this dianthus. And I got this seed from a really great nursery, Tallahassee Nurseries, in Tallahassee, Florida, last year in March. And I sowed that in the fall as well. And I was super pleased with how this pot looks. I think that dianthus is really pretty. But I wanted to give you an up-close view on this barley because it is just... it's a beauty queen, y'all. And it's a great cut. I brought in a bouquet of green barley for some flower arrangements. And it holds up really well in vases. And it dries nicely. And it's just, I just think that it's one of the most beautiful plants on the face of the earth. Of course, layered behind that is arugula that is seeding. It's in its flowering stage, and I always allow the arugula to self-sow. That way I don't have to reseed it, and it just continues to grow year-round. Since we've gotten the Orbit yard protector out, or yard enforcer out, I've definitely think that the clover and barley are not getting eaten as much. I have to remember that that's on because it shoots water out. We have it set for nighttime. So it'll shoot water out once it gets to twilight. And man, it will shoot water at you, I promise. And I don't know if this is all rainwater or if some of this is from the yard enforcer going off. But here in my fancy dancy new silicone rain gauge that won't freeze in the winter, I got this at Bell's Seed Supply. We got 3 inches showing up here. I don't know if that's realistically from rain entirely, but I guess it kind of doesn't matter. It represents that this part of the garden has gotten 3 inches of rain since we left. Now, this is one of my favorite native azaleas. This is Rhododendron knessens Varnado's Pink Phlox. And it's just so spectacular. You can see that's actually a hummingbird moth up there pollinating it. What an exciting time. And it was the first thing I saw when we pulled in the driveway. This is just, it's just so outstanding. And, you know, I always tell the story when I give presentations. There was actually a stupid Bradford pear in this bed, and it was planted like where that podocarpus is. And when we took it out, this became a full sun bed. And the plants have really responded in a great way. Like, I never would have thought to put this in full sun, but honestly, look at that flower display, and it doesn't even get burnt leaves, and this is full western exposure. So this was part of the reason that I felt confident putting native azaleas, deciduous native azaleas, in full sun next door. And I don't know if all the species will do as well as knessens, but this was my inspiration. Now I wanted to show you Neolithia again. Obviously this is planted more towards the front sort of side border of the house. And you can see that foliage is so awesome. And I like using this also in cut flower arrangements. I just, you know, wherever it needs to be trimmed And I do have a lot of dieback on this that I think is from the holiday freeze that I need to go ahead and cut back. But I love to use these branches or the new growth in cut flower arrangements. And if there was ever a petable plant, it is this, Neolithia saracia. I don't think that it has a common name. You've just got to look up the botanical, and if you ever come across it, you should definitely buy it if you garden in zone 7 through 9. And a quick strawberry update. The roly-polies have stolen my first ripe one, which is what they always do. And I really need to take a picture of that because I talk about this in presentations and I'm not sure everybody understands. But here's a little baby. And here's a nice looking one that I think I'm gonna go ahead and eat. And there's some more. And this is all Chandler on both sides here. You can see this border, they're not fruiting yet, but soon. Really excited for strawberry season. And show you along this border here, you can see those seedlings that we did in January 3rd, growing great. More onion. These are perennial onion, but these aren't the Egyptian walking onion. You can see the difference is in their bloom stalk. This is a bunching onion. Great to eat, but also great for deterring animals. And behind that, the Shasta viburnum is starting to bloom. And this is one remnant left from the property before I arrived and built a garden. We have one old azalea that has been cut down to the ground and it just has a real will to live. And of course, at this time of year, the azaleas are really beautiful. I prefer the native azaleas, but honestly, if you live in the South, azaleas really are a terrific plant. They're just kind of boring the rest of the year. And of course, last week I did a bunch of kind of filling in the gaps, seeding in this bed. None of that's germinated yet, but it will soon. But I was really excited just now to see that we do have some peas that are starting. And I do love eating peas. So this is a great sign. End of March, and we've got some peas that we can add to a delicious dinner that David is cooking right now.
Hey everybody.
David's making dinner.
Using that garlic.
That's right, using that garlic and in the uni. Yep. If you all haven't experienced an uni,
they're pretty awesome.
It's a game changer. Oh yeah.
Little oily breadsticks with some veggies on top.
That's a brie-friendly meal there. And I keep making more garden videos and David's making progress on dinner. Oh my gosh, that looks good. Well, it always feels so good to be home, and I'm actually I don't have a lot more trips coming up. I have an awesome class on Saturday, April 1st at Piedmont Feed and Garden Center in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I will put the link in the description. So if you are local, I would love to see you there. And then in the 3rd week of April, I will be in Aiken, South Carolina for the Master Gardeners. They have like a lunch and learn. And I will put all the information about the places I'm going to be through the month of April, most of which are local, in the description for this video. And I'm really excited to have some quality time at home, in the garden with the kitties, to get some necessary things accomplished. I'm definitely going to be starting some summer seeds so that I'll have some plants available for sale at the Spring Open Garden, which is Saturday, May 13th from noon to 4 p.m. I'll definitely be adding to the list of plants that are going to be available for sale as I knock out the rest of the perennials that I am putting a purchase in for. And I'll be adding all the vegetables that I'm going to be starting from seed, including my all-time favorite tomato, cream sausage, which I promise you is a life-changing tomato. So be sure to tune in. I look forward to sharing another update with you all next week. And I thank you so much for watching. Have a great one, everybody.